Hurry up! A frustrated voice grumbled, and Dryth felt a hand land on his back and push. He stumbled forward and knocked into the girl standing in front of him, even as he fought to keep himself from falling into her. She turned around to glare at Dryth before noticing him trying to maintain his balance. Her glare shifted over his shoulder to the boy behind him, and her nose crinkled up in a sneer.
Don't push people, you idiot. And what do you mean, hurry up? We're all in the same line.
She turned back around with a huff, completely ignoring Dryth after seeing he hadn't run into her purposefully. The boy who'd pushed Dryth silently sneered at him, like it was somehow Dryth's fault that he'd been scolded. Dryth had known for years that the kid was an impatient idiot, and getting into an argument with him would just make things worse. Life was generally easier if he ignored the fools. And this, of all times, and today of all days, was definitely the moment to stick to that mantra. As if to reinforce Dryth's resolve, one of their teachers walked by right at that moment and stared at the kid behind him with an unhappy look. Dryth didn't know if the boy behind him was pulling back to give him another shove, or the teacher had seen the first one and was coming to dispense punishment, but he wasn't getting involved. The scary stories of kids getting dragged off during their reveal day to be punished and remain children, forever trapped in boring lessons, were obviously fake. The rumors of kids having their reveal delayed by a day or two sounded like a much more realistic punishment, and Dryth wasn't going to be one of those unfortunates. He wasn't willing to wait a single day more for his reveal. The teacher didn't do anything other than stare disapprovingly, so they must not have seen him get pushed, and they continued to patrol the line, watching intently for misbehavior. There were a little less than 40 students from the school for his local area, but there were 5 other classes in line, and even more scheduled to arrive throughout the day, and the sheer number of impatient students wanting to get past the waiting and the sitting and the listening parts to get to their reveals meant there was a lot of tension around. Dryth was clutched by the same tension, too wrapped up in himself to even attempt making small talk with anyone, or to even enjoy the beautiful campus they were on like some of his peers. There wasn't really a point in trying to talk to anyone. He wasn't around any of the handful of people he called friends, and he was a social outcast to the rest of the class. So that was out, regardless of where he was in the line, mentally begging everyone ahead of him to go faster. Some tiny piece of him was a little sad that he wasn't looking at the gorgeous and in many cases literally magical sights, but he reassured himself that he could do that later. And he could, honestly. Once he got through his reveal and became an official mage, walking around the association campus to see all the sights would be an easy task. Whatever was holding things up at the front was finally cleared up, and people started moving faster. Dryth followed the girl in front of him, whose head he'd been staring at for hours, into the building they'd all been waiting to enter. They filed into a large auditorium filled with seats looking down at a wide, semicircular stage. Following the directions of the many teachers around, from his class and others from numerous different regions, each student took a seat, one after the next, and quietly waited for the event to start. Whatever it was. The only thing Dryth knew was that today was the day of everyone's reveals, and they weren't public spectacles for everyone to watch. Whatever the point of the auditorium was, he didn't care at that moment. Dryth needed to get this over with. He desperately hoped, no, he believed that finally being an adult meant he could get out of the shitty situation he was stuck in. He wasn't being tortured or denied his basic rights or anything, but he was fed up with being an outcast and the object of everyone's bad feelings, shitty days, and random aggressions. He was the weird kid, and who cared if he knew answers to questions before the teacher ever broached the subject? It wasn't all that strange. He'd been focused on his studies since the day he'd known he was going to be a mage. And just because people hadn't heard of concepts he'd mentioned or the people and places he spoke of didn't mean that he was possessed. It didn't mean he was a demon, or monster, or any of the other cruel ideas people had regarding him.